This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words. Tolerate it. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Had the best words. God bless the United States.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
I'm not worth your McDonald's money.
On the nation, Waldorf Nation. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It's Friday. It's been a long week, but we're here. It's been a long road getting from there to here. Okay, anyway, let's not do that. All right. So, like I said, everybody, welcome to the show. We've got an interesting one, including first look at the affidavit. So there's a lot to that. Obviously, a lot of information in that, and also a lot of redacted information, a lot of stuff. But we've got a little bit of it. There's still more that, of course, I need to read into. But so far, not looking good. All right. Not only do we have that, of course, we have True Social. True Social. A little bit of news about that platform, and it's not good. We have, of course, the White House going on a tear on Twitter, which is fun. We have an ex-Trump advisor, interestingly giving Biden a little bit of credit. Huh. I mean, in of course, a weird way, but we'll talk about that. Then we are also going to talk about Amy Coney Barrett's, the cult that she's a member of and how they treat women. So that's an interesting video that has come out thanks to The Guardian. So with that said, why don't we start out with the affidavit? Before we dive into it, of course, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. With that said, let's do it. The highly anticipated affidavit has been unsealed by the Department of Justice. Now, of course, this is partly redacted. Nonetheless, it is the affidavit that was used to obtain the search warrant for Trump's home in Florida, Mar-a-Lago. So now, in it, of course, we find some of the justification for that warrant and the subsequent search of Trump's home. Now, let me get into one of the justifications. And that, of course, is the significant amount of classified information that they had previously obtained from Mar-a-Lago. This was pre-search. So they got these documents and they took a look at them and they found a lot of stuff that Trump had taken from the White House when he left and then, you know, shoved it in a closet in Mar-a-Lago. So, all right. Now, as I said, of the classified information that they had found, a preliminary review of the 15 boxes of materials obtained from Mar-a-Lago indicated that they had contained newspapers, magazines, printed news articles, photos, miscellaneous printouts, notes, presidential correspondence, personal and post-presidential records, and is, again, a lot of classified records. These are highly classified records. I'll give you the breakdown on that. But basically, they may have contained human source intelligence, intercepts under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA, and signals intelligence, as well as other tags, including high sensitivity. And they were found unfolded and intermixed with other records and otherwise improperly identified. Okay, so now some of those documents, by the way, contained Trump's handwritten notes. So I don't know if he wrote those notes when he was president or when he was not president. And so I think that matters. Now, in those documents, agents found about 184 unique documents, I should say in those boxes, 25 of which were marked top secret, 92 marked secret, 67 were marked confidential, which is the lowest level of a national security classification. So now, that was the first group of documents that Mar-a-Lago had actually handed over, Trump had. And so they went and the FBI looked through this and they're like, wow, that's a lot of classified material that you took from the White House when you left. I wonder if he has more. I mean, there's a possibility that there might be more documents that they did not return them all. They had suspicions. Okay. And look, again, the FBI also was concerned that these documents were being mishandled, which, again, we find out that's obviously the truth. From the terrible condition that they got sent back in, of course. But hey, at least, to be fair, at least they got whole pages of documents and not, shredded documents that had been flushed down the toilet.
People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times.
They're flushing toilets because, or I should say Trump's flushing toilets because of the documents. But luckily, these documents were not shredded or flushed, but were just massively out of order in different folders, intermixed with all sorts of stuff. Obviously, absolutely mishandled. Okay, so now, that said, the DOJ wrote in a letter to Trump's attorney, Evan Corcoran, and again, this was, I believe, around May. As I previously indicated to you, Mar-a-Lago does not include a secure location authorized for the storage of classified information. DOJ wrote in a letter, as such, it appears that since the time classified documents, redacted, were removed from secure facilities at the White House and moved to Mar-a-Lago on or around January 20th, 2021, they have not been handled in an appropriate manner or stored in an appropriate location. And look, again, there's the existence of video that would show people going in and out of the different rooms that they had stored these documents in, these top secret, in some cases classified documents, national security documents. Randos were going in and out of the rooms. Staff members. Again, that, of course, that's not secure. They didn't even have a padlock on the door. And by the way, Trump's assertion that, they asked us to put a padlock on the door, and we totally did. We made it very, very secure, the most secure. No. The DOJ was like, this is not a secure facility. You need to send these documents back now. In fact, the affidavit asserts that the documents were kept in more than just a storage room at Mar-a-Lago. The FBI also believed the material was housed in Trump's residential suite, in a location listed as Pine Hall, and in the 45 office. Oh, my God. Are you serious? The 45 office. Now he named that at Mar-a-Lago. Oh, I've got the 45 office now. You're not president anymore. You're, again, okay. Now, here's the thing. They get these documents at first. Okay, they go through them. They found out they're just massively disorganized. And then what makes them believe that Trump had more documents other than just, okay, look, we know the guy has not really been very forthcoming with documents. No, it actually took people who had, I don't know if they worked at Mar-a-Lago. I don't know who they are, but there are sources inside of Mar-a-Lago, several actually. And this is where a lot of the redaction comes into place, okay, to protect those sources and their identities as well as the agents involved. But they tipped off the authorities and they said, look, yeah, we see these documents that are just, massively improperly handled. They're everywhere. They're not secure. You got to do something about it because he's slow walking the return. Now, there's a lot more, again, in this document without getting into obstruction of justice, but just, again, having these documents laying around unsecured, having randos be able to walk in and out of the rooms containing this top secret information is just disastrous. And it's also, yes, highly illegal. Under 18 U.S.C. 793, whoever having unauthorized possession of access to or control over any document or information relating to the national defense, which they had, which information the possessor has reason to believe they could be used to the injury of the United States or to the advantage of any foreign nation, willfully communicates, delivers, transmits, or causes to be communicated, delivered, or transmitted, or attempts to do so, to cause the same to any person not entitled to receive it, or willfully retains the same and fails to deliver it to the officer or employee of the United States entitled to receive it, shall be fined or imprisoned not more than 10 years or both. So that last part, again, the DOJ was telling Trump months ago, you are not storing this in a secure facility. Mar-a-Lago is not secure. You need to give this back. And for months, he says, no, I'm not going to give it back. My lawyers, they say, we're not going to give it back. So these are not your documents. These are mine. They're my documents. Again, they said you didn't secure it. You shouldn't have them. Send them back. Now, I mentioned Trump's lawyer, Evan Corcoran, right? So now, in a response to the DOJ, he said, you know what, Trump, he has absolute authority to declassify these documents. Kash Patel also mentioned in the affidavit who claimed that Trump had declassified them with the action implicitly of just by taking them out of the White House. No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. There is a process to go through. Yes, the president can declassify documentation. That's one of the powers he has, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't have to go through a process. A post on Truth Social does not mean classification or declassification, okay? Take the physical act of taking them out of the White House does not mean that you have declassified these documents. That's not the process. But again, Trump ignores the process. They always ignore the process because they think they're above the law. And they think that we're just going to let them do it. Now, also, Corcoran argued that, hey, look, he has the absolute authority to declassify the document, but he also didn't explicitly say that Trump had actually declassified the documents. So he didn't even mention that. And also did not address, by the way, before I get to that law that I, mentioned to you, 18 U.S.C. 793, he said, well, look, yes, there is that law, but it doesn't apply to presidents. Oh, really? Well, okay, but Trump took those documents when he was no longer president. So how does that, does the same immunity from prosecution apply to a non-president, someone who is now a civilian, as Trump was at the time that he took the documents and then refused to turn them over? Certainly, a former president doesn't retain declassification power. No, he gives up those powers when he leaves office. And so Corcoran, in his letter to the DOJ, didn't even mention that at all. At all. And so what's funny is that prosecutors, when they sought the search warrant for Mar-a-Lago, they included that letter. So like here, this is what Donald Trump's dumb lawyer is saying. Okay. Now, that submission to Magistrate Judge Bruce Reinhart, however, as the affidavit notes, they did not cite the criminal statute Corcoran reference as a basis for the search. So no, they actually went even worse. They went hard. Prosecutors pointed to possible violations of the broader ranging and more severe Espionage Act, as well as other criminal statutes covering the theft of government records and even possible obstruction of justice. That's the stuff that we didn't get to see. That's the stuff that looks like it's been redacted. Now, what's even more interesting too, again, this is more than just improperly storing the documents. That's the very least, right? No, Trump's lawyer also stated in that same letter that no legal objection was asserted about the transfer, indicating that they knew that legally Trump could not hold on to this material and that they had held on to it regardless. Look, there is only one reason I could think of for someone to hold on to top secret documents. And that's if you want to sell them. Why then would you also take so long to return documents that you knew you weren't legally supposed to have? Were you taking time to go through them to find the stuff that you wanted to keep? Maybe it's the stuff that you wanted to sell and have them make copies of it. I don't know. But that was enough. All of this stuff together was enough to get the FBI's hair on fire and to say, that's it. We got to go in. We got to get this stuff back. Because obviously, from what we have seen before, completely disorganized, random, anybody can walk into that storage room and come and take these documents that are classified that could put people in real danger and a danger for national security. So I'm glad they went and got the documents because obviously Donald Trump either was so incredibly careless and negligent that he didn't care what happened to those documents and who saw them, or, as I mentioned before, he was trying to sell them. Now, one more thing here. Let me get to Trump's response. On True Social, Trump said this: affidavit heavily redacted, nothing mentioned on nuclear, a total public relations subterfuge by the FBI and DOJ, or our close working relationship regarding document turnover. We gave them much. Judge Bruce Reinhart should have never allowed the break into my home. He recused himself 2 months ago. No, he didn't. From one of my cases based on the animosity and hatred of your favorite president, me. What changed? Why hasn't he recused himself on this case? Obama must be very proud of him right now. You know, it's funny. He's like, nothing mentioned on nuclear. Hey, idiot. That would be part of the redacted, wouldn't it? I mean, you would assume so. Yes, if there was nuclear information that they had found, again, top secret of top secret, yeah, that would be redacted. Oh, my God. And again, the stuff about Reinhart and the fact that, we gave them much, but you didn't give it all. You didn't give them all. That's the whole point. You didn't give back the classified information that you stole, that you weren't supposed to have. That's the point. That's why you were raided, because you wouldn't give it back. But as usual, he's a moron, an absolute moron, an unhinged clown, but a dangerous one as well. that had possible nuclear secrets, but just had secrets of the United States that he shouldn't have had. Look, he's got to get face some justice for this, okay? Like, he can't be allowed to just get away with taking the secrets from this country and hiding them in his house to do God knows what with. I am still always concerned that, there will be a way for Trump to evade justice on this, but still, I mean, this looks really bad. I'm not going to lie. This looks probably the worst that I've ever seen. All right. Reinhardt was not appointed by Trump. No. He was, I think he was approved by a lot of Republicans, though. But yeah, he wasn't appointed by Trump. Okay. Let's move on. Good, True Social. Bad news for former President Donald Trump's social media platform, True Social, or, as he likes to call it,
Truth Central.
True Central. Fox News is reporting that a vendor is accusing the platform, run by Devin Nunes, of stiffing them out of more than $1 million in contractually obligated payments. Oops. Sources tell Fox Business, that if the allegations are true, they would suggest that True Social's finances are in significant disarray. So let me give you more details about this. Now, the internet infrastructure company RightForge is said to be among True Social's largest vendors and creditors, according to sources. In October, RightForge announced that it entered into an agreement to host True Social, which Trump helped create after he was banned by Twitter following January 6. RightForge is now contending that True Social has unsurprisingly reneged on its contractually obligated monthly payments for setting up the platform's web servicing infrastructure, according to 3 people with direct knowledge of the matter. These people say RightForge contends that True Social has made only 3 payments and had ceased making any more payments since around March. All in total, RightForge is saying True Social owes it about $1.6 million in back payments and is threatening legal action in order to recoup their money. Of course. Oops. Sad baby. Well, you know what I say to that?
I'm not worth your McDonald's money.
Yeah, it's not either. It's not. It's True Social. But anyway, they don't have any money. But the other thing that I say is, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Hey, RightForge, you knew what you were getting into. You were hosting True Social. Donald Trump has a history of stiffing contractors. I mean, again, odds are, if you loan Donald Trump money, or if Donald Trump somehow owes you money, you ain't getting that back. There is no way in hell you're not getting that back. You might as well just not even try. It's flushing your money down the toilet. That's what happens when you give money to Trump or any sort of his projects or anything like that. You're just going to lose it. I don't understand how anyone still owes him money or loans him money or makes any sort of contracts or deals with him. You know he's not good for it. You're not getting it back. Again, even back in 2016, we knew that Donald Trump does not pay his bills. Again, USA Today's Steve Riley back in 2016 detailed how Trump had faced, at that time, and there's more, at least 60 lawsuits, hundreds of liens, judgments, and other government filings that Trump had failed to pay. For example, a dishwasher in Florida, a glass company in New Jersey, all people he stiffed, a carpet company, plumber, painters, 48 waiters, dozens of bartenders and other hourly workers at resorts and clubs, coast to coast. Not only that, but he has stiffed real estate brokers who had sold his properties, and even several of the law firms that had once represented him in those very same lawsuits and others. And most recently, of course, he stiffed the Freedom Girls, several states and cities when it came to security for his rallies, his own lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, you know. Yes, he didn't even pay him. I mean, come on. The guy does not pay his bills. He just doesn't. He just doesn't. Now, which, again, is super ironic, right? Pro-Trump Republicans, they're raging about the little bit of student loan debt cancellation that Biden just did. I just wanted to point that out. The man doesn't pay his bills. He had gotten about $280 million, I think it was $287 million of debt forgiven by the banks. And again, these people, the Chuds, look up to him. And they say, oh, yeah, you got to pay your bills, though. You got to pay your bills. That guy doesn't pay his bills. And you want students that are drowning in student loan debt to pay those bills. Really? Really? Okay. Anyway. Now, again, we're talking about predatory student loans as well. But anyway, look, the reason that Trump doesn't pay his bills is because Trump's not a billionaire. Trump's a fake billionaire. He's a pretend billionaire. He doesn't actually have the monies. He has a lot of debt. That's what he has. And by the way, the same reason why the Trump Media and Technology Group can't pay these bills and why True Social is doomed. It is. It's gone. It's swirling the drain. In fact, in a May regulatory filing, and we've seen this, again, coming for quite some time, Digital World stated, there is no operating history upon which to base any assumption as to the likelihood that Trump Media will prove successful, and Trump Media may never generate any operating revenues or ever achieve profitable operations. If TMTG is unsuccessful in addressing these risks, its business will most likely fail. Again, another failed business for Trump? Oh, no, it would never happen. Really? Oh, nobody could see that one coming, except everyone that isn't watching, I guess that isn't watching conservative media. Because remember, conservatives, they live in a different reality, a different media reality. And again, it is shaped by right-wing pundits. You don't hear about the business failures. You don't hear about any of that. All you hear about is Donald Trump, billionaire, rich, successful businessman. You don't hear about any of these failures. You don't hear about Trump Air. You don't hear about Trump Steaks. You don't hear about the the students that he defrauded with his fake university. You don't hear about any of that stuff. All you hear about is how successful and rich Donald Trump is, and that you should bow down to him like a god, like the god that he is. They don't hear about any of this stuff, and so, of course, they're deluded, and they think, oh, I got to give that guy my money. I'm going to give that guy my banana, right? The alpha male. He's going to get my banana. He's going to get my money, my Social Security money in some cases. No, he's a thief. He's a fraud. He's there to rob you. That's his whole point. That was the whole point of him becoming president, so they could, perpetuate one of the biggest robberies on the American people. And guess what? That was the Trump tax cuts, 83% of which went to the highest earners in this country. So that's what it's all about. And even though, he still scammed so many people out of their money, He's still not rich. It's amazing. Now, that said, let's go here. Back to that May regulatory filing, right? The filing also added that True Social doesn't yet generate revenue, of course, and may begin to generate revenue from the True Social platform as early as 2023. That is very unlikely to happen. That is super optimistic, right? Again, probably never going to happen because right now, the planned merger with Digital World Acquisition Group, that is the Special Purpose Acquisition Company, or SPAC, or basically blank check. I mean, that's what SPACs are. They're essentially blank check companies where investors will pour a lot of money, sometimes not even knowing what it's actually going to go to, which is very, very weird. I would never imagine investing in a place where in this blank check fund, and I don't know where that money's going to go. In fact, there were some people who actually did contribute to that, and once they found out that it was going to be a Donald Trump related project, they were like, "Oh, got to pull out! We got to get out of here!" No, because they know the truth. They know that it's never going to make any money. It's never going to get them any sort of return on investment.
Don't you ever do that. Don't you ever do that. I tell you, don't do it.
Those are the people that are like, no, don't do it. Don't give to Trump. It's a bad idea. You're going to go broke. And that's what looks like it's going to happen, even though, by the way, the merger is not, at this point, not even going to happen. Look, that merger has been put off indefinitely amid various probes into business dealings, including a Justice Department grand jury probe and an investigation by the SEC. That SPAC was going to infuse apparently some much needed amount of donor money to, keep this media venture going, social media venture, until it either became profitable, which again, I don't see that coming, or completely falling apart like the Ponzi scheme that it is. You don't think Devin Nunes has a golden parachute waiting for him? Or Trump, who has a big stake in this, although is not actually involved in the day-to-day operations? Of course, he's gonna pull the ripcord, and he's gonna make sure that he gets as much money he can when it falls apart. Now, the other thing that's funny, I should say the last thing, is if he loses True Social, the only place where he can sit there and post really dumb rants, well, I mean, that's going to be sad for him, but also hilarious. That's all I got to say on that. Follow the bouncing check. Indeed. Indeed. All right. So this is fun, by the way. It looks as though the White House is actually fighting back against Republicans. Holy crap. So now this follows the cancellation of some of the student loan debt held by 43 million Americans, after which, of course, right-wing figures lashed out. They're very, very mad about this. And in nearly every case, the person complaining about the small amount of relief, $10,000 to $20,000, depending on if you'd receive Pell Grants or were under that income cap of $125,000 for an individual or $250,000 for a married couple, had their, loans forgiven. The people that were complaining about that small amount of relief. So now the Republicans here had taken out something called a Paycheck Protection Program loan, and then had that loan forgiven by the government. So now the White House account, however, decided to bring some receipts to these people who were complaining that students got some relief And they started out with Marjorie Greene and just kind of went down the list. So now, the other day, I actually mentioned a lot of the people who had their paycheck protection loans forgiven. In fact, why don't we, let's see, find that list here from yesterday. Here we go. You had Matt Gaetz, nearly $500,000. Marjorie Greene, we'll get back to her. Greg Pence, $79,000. Vern Buchanan, $2.8 million. Mark Green Mullen, about $988,700. And so, look at the list, right? There's a lot of money that was forgiven. Again, the Paycheck Protection Program actually was about $800 billion that were loaned out. So that's a lot of money, and a lot of them did end up getting forgiven. Now, I'm not against the Paycheck Protection Program on principle, okay? But the way that it was done, and I'll go into a little bit more detail later, but it was very, very shoddy, and it invited a lot of fraud. So, that said, let's get to Greene, right? Now, Greene, she complained about this. What does she get paycheck protection loans for? Well, according to ProPublica, Representative Greene's family, a construction business, took out a paycheck protection loan on April 10th, 2020 for a total of $182,300. In total, including interest, the federal government forgave her and her family's loan, totaling $183,504. All right. So now, look, I love the narrative from the right about the student loan, cancellation being a handout to buy votes. What do you think the Paycheck Protection Program loans were? That feels like a handout to me. Now, the program, again, originated under President Donald Trump. They made about $800 billion in loans to all sorts of companies, ranging from small businesses to incredibly large, profitable businesses. But as I've said before, there's no oversight. This was a trough of free money. Now, if you want to compare that to student loan cancellation, which is heavily means tested, and again, only covers up to a maximum of $20,000, and that's if you have received Pell Grants. Now, you all know my position here: full cancellation, free college. We need to make colleges, and these are public colleges and universities, tuition free. That's going to solve the problem. Of course, the Republicans don't want to solve the problem, and it goes all the way back to Reagan. In fact, The Intercept had a fantastic article that sort of talked about the history of how Reagan and his one of his education advisors were basically conspiring, talking with the FBI, and that's when Reagan hit on the idea of, I'm just going to defund Berkeley. I'm going to defund California's colleges. As governor, I'm going to do that so that I can end subversiveness on campus. The subversiveness of going up against the Vietnam War, for example. And then there was an admission here by that education advisor that, hey, we just, we don't want an educated proletariat. That's bad for us. That's dynamite, but in a bad way. We don't want that. So we're going to make sure to defund education so that people get, who want an education have to get trapped in this debt cycle, and they don't get any ideas about being uppity, and not knowing their place. It really is an excellent article, and I encourage you all to read it. But that said, right? The average Paycheck Protection Program loan forgiveness equaled about $95,000. Again, comparative to the maximum of $20,000 for student loan cancellation. Okay? Now, as a result, of course, of this being a gigantic pot of free money, watchdogs estimate that billions in fraudulent Paycheck Protection Program loans were not only given out, but also just completely forgiven. Now, a lot of that money did not go to help working people. Again, the whole point of the program is, okay, look, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We don't want you to fire people. So we're going to give you all this free government money, right? As opposed to actually just giving it to the workers. No, we're going to give it to the companies, to the employers, to keep people on payroll, right? While we have some very, very short shutdowns or lockdowns, okay? That didn't really help working people. At least 900 companies borrowed more than $1.8 billion in PPP loans while laying off or furloughing up to 90,000 employees. And that's just one example from a report by the Center for Public Integrity. There's a lot more. And it turns out that a lot of these companies, we found out that they were already in financial distress before COVID-19. They saw the vat of free government money that the Trump administration had passed and said, okay, we're just going to take it. We're going to take it, and then we're going to fire employees anyway. They were still forgiven. They still had those loans forgiven after they went out of business. Now, again, going back to the comparison, millions of Americans, the 43 million Americans that have student loans, millions of them have been paying on their loans for years, decades even, with no end in sight. Again, some people had taken out, $100,000, $200,000, $75,000, and had made their monthly payments the way they were supposed to, and yet still now owe $100,000, $150,000, $200,000. Now, how's that possible? It's because there's interest. That interest builds up, and thankfully, that's one of the things Biden's plan actually got rid of. And so that's one of the best parts of it. Still, they had paid these loans. And by the way, they could not actually discharge them through bankruptcy. Look, I give Biden credit for doing this, but Biden is also the person that put these people in this place in the first place, in this situation. As a senator, he had pushed to ensure that you could not discharge student loans through bankruptcy. Made it impossible. So, not only that, again, you'd have people who defaulted. And if you default, of course, you see a gigantic hit to your credit. And so you couldn't get a home loan, you couldn't get a car loan, you couldn't get anything else. And so you want to compare PPP to student loans, it's just not the same. It's not a comparison here, okay? But anyway, getting back to the White House. Now, I love that Biden is defending this policy unapologetically. I'm not used to Democrats taking a strong position and then actually defending said position. I'm not used to this. Now, the White House account that was going back and basically tweeting the receipts, telling all of these people, and let me show you, just a little bit of that. If you haven't really already seen this before, here it is. Again, it's just a scroll through Twitter. Here's the White House pointing out how much she got, and then how much Vern Buchanan had, how much Mark Wayne Mullen had, just showing those receipts. Kevin Hearn, Mike Kelly, just absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And so that White House account really illustrates that, hey, we're fighting. We're actually going to call out Republicans on their BS. Not used to it. So now I want to give credit, of course, to the person who is running that, and that is Megan Coyne. Megan Coyne's a Jersey native who, has run social media accounts before in New Jersey filled with dunks. Love it. I'm here for it. Again, I'm used to Democrats apologizing to Republicans, but the Biden administration is finally politically punching them in the face. Politically. I don't know what happened. But, you know, I don't know what made them decide to go in this direction. But hey, I'm here for it. Say goodbye to Sleepy Joe and say hello to Dark Brandon. Dark Brandon. Indeed. All right. All right. A former Trump campaign advisor actually made a decent point. Take a look.
So privileged people, many of whom chose to go and pursue worthless degrees, are getting a handout from Joe Biden. Now, I will at least say this, Steve, and I want to give credit to Jack Posobiec because he just tweeted this out, and he's exactly right. In terms of political payoffs, and that's what this is, it's a crass political payoff, at least the Democrats are smart enough to pay off American voters.
Okay, so look, again, that was Steve Cortez, and it's very clear that he doesn't agree with canceling student loan debt. But, and the reason that I say that he made a good point is because he's pointing out how the politics of the situation was actually pretty smart. Now, I think both policy and the politics on this were smart, at least smarter than not doing anything. In fact, I'm not the only one. This actually is pretty popular. According to a recent national poll conducted by a progressive think tank, Data for Progress, about 60% of the 1,400 respondents said that, yes, the federal government should eliminate all or some student loan debt for every borrower. Along party lines, 81% of Democrats were in favor of canceling at least some student loan debt, 10,000, compared to 45% of Republicans who said the same. The poll also found more than half of past student loan borrowers and voters who never borrowed student loans believed that some or all student debt should be eliminated. Now, look, I see all these arguments from right-wingers that are like, if you paid off your loans, you should be so mad. I mean, you're just taking this money and you're giving it to college students, elitists. Well, they're not mad. More than half who have paid it off or never had loans at all. We're like, yeah, this is it's stupid. Why do we have education that is at this point incredibly prohibitively expensive and predatory? These loans shouldn't exist in the first place. Higher education should be tuition free. So again, popular position, good policy. Now, there's other arguments, and this is where, of course, the corporate press comes into play. Inflation. Of course, inflation. What's funny about that argument is nobody seems to ever ask if giving billions of dollars to defense contractors creates inflation. Nobody ever asked if the Paycheck Protection Program caused inflation. Nobody asks about the billions of dollars in corporate handouts and subsidies, if that causes inflation, or the billions of dollars that we've given for aid to Ukraine, which is basically a blank check. I think we've given about $50 billion so far to Ukraine, and I'm not saying we shouldn't, help them in at least in that way to fight against the Russian invasion. I'm just saying nobody ever asks if that contributes to inflation at all. Nobody ever asks those questions when it comes to guns, when it comes to weapon systems, when it comes to any of that stuff. But when it comes to anything that helps the average person, workers in this country, people that have tried to get an education, suddenly that's the only thing we hear about. Oh, inflation. Oh, it's going to hurt people. Inflation. So it's pretty ridiculous. So now, that said, Cortez is going to continue. And really, this is where he makes an argument that I can't disagree with. Take a look.
Establishment Republicans, they pay off CEOs and defense contractors. So think about that contrast. If you're going to do power politics, and if you're going to do crass payoffs, at least the Democrats know where their bread is buttered and they're going to pay off voters. What Mitch McConnell does and establishment Republicans do is they reward the CEOs of places like Northrop Grumman. And therein lies one of the key reasons why in America, as you often talk about, the Republicans have won election for decades while we are losing our country. That is the reality.
Whoa! That is true. A lot of that is true. Yes, establishment Republican, and by the way, I'll add establishment Democrats, just the establishment in general, yes, all they do is give corporate CEOs money and defense contractors money. That's exactly what happens. Exactly. And so, look, I can't disagree. Now, there is one thing that I also will point out. Democrats just, again, as I pointed out, Democrats do that a lot. They do tend to serve their corporate donors, but they just figured it out that, hey, maybe we should do some popular things too. You know, doing things that people like, that our voters like, that's actually good. And maybe we should actually, keep doing those things. I know, amazing, right? But hey, great. I'm glad you and I, Steve, we're on the same page when it comes to that, okay? Yes, we know the establishment serves the rich. We know the establishment serves the defense contractors. We know it serves the CEOs. And by the way, there's a reason for that. The donors. They're the donors. And so what happens is the donors come in and they buy our politicians and they get a return on investment. That's it. Now, sure, these companies will give, millions of dollars to politicians for like a Senate seat, okay? But then when they received, tens of millions of dollars or even hundreds of millions of dollars in government subsidies or tax cuts, I mean, if you're a company and you're in a system as corrupt as the United States, why wouldn't you buy a politician? It's almost stupid not to. And that's the problem with the system. It's not just the problem with the politicians. So Cortez is pretty limited on that one, okay? Because he doesn't make the connection here between, establishment Republicans, they keep gifting, the CEOs. I wonder why they're doing that. Well, they're doing that because the CEOs own them and get them elected. They put them into power. It's the corruption of that system that allows this to happen. So in order to fix that, you have to change the system. You have to get rid of the corrosive influence of money in politics. You have to stop donors from buying off politicians. And you can do that, again, getting money out of politics completely. You have to go around, of course, those politicians. And again, this is why everyone should be united on this issue of getting money out of politics. Everyone needs to be united on this. It doesn't matter if you're right winger. It doesn't, if you're lefty, or in the middle, if you're a centrist, right? We should all agree that money in our political system is corruption. And it leads to a system where politicians only represent the rich, their donors. And we have to all agree to do something about it. I think the only way is to go around those corrupt politicians, and that's by doing a constitutional convention, getting an amendment to the Constitution to get rid of the corrosive influence of money in politics, to, state that money is not speech, corporations are not people, and that we should have absolutely no private money in our elections. It doesn't matter if it's union money, doesn't matter if it's corporate money, doesn't matter if it's coming from, the surviving Koch brother or George Soros. Doesn't matter. Get rid of all of that money. It doesn't matter if it helps progressive causes. I care very deeply about progressive causes, but I still don't want their money in there. No, publicly funded elections with equal media time for everyone, for all candidates. That's the way to do it. That's the only way to get rid of the corruption. All right. Let's do one last story for you. It's been a really fast hour. You can believe it. A video was recently leaked of an event hosted by a group called the People of Praise. Now, what is the People of Praise? Well, apparently they are a secretive Christian group or a cult to which Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett belongs to. And that's, of course, why this is now in the national spotlight. Now, this video that had come out basically shows how they feel about women and their place in the home. Take a look.
Suddenly we were having teachings on headship and the roles of men and women and all sorts of things we hadn't counted on at all. And some of the women who are still in my women's group, as a matter of fact, would wear sunglasses all the time because they were always crying. Okay? And would have to hold on to their chairs every time somebody started teaching because what are we going to hear this time? But it all worked out just fine.
So notice how they laughed, right? Oh, they laugh and laugh and laugh. Now, again, this Christian group, the reason that these women were crying is because this group basically says you must be 100% in control of your husband. Have the man in control, total control of everything, and the women have no control. They must be completely and utterly subservient. And then she says, well, look, I mean, when we tell the women that they're going to have absolutely no control over their own lives, well, of course they would get upset and they would start crying. But then it turned out fine because, the men just told us to shut up and go make a sandwich. And then they were fine. They were fine. See, they're fine. Men in control, women not. Totally fine. No. Again, this is ridiculous. Now, there's more details about that. And this comes from former members of People of Praise. They say they have described the group as calling for the complete obedience of women to their husbands. The Guardian previously reported that one of the group's former members described in a sworn affidavit filed in the 90s that Kevin Ronigan, which, by the way, the person that you heard talking there was actually Dorothy Ronigan. So that is the wife, obviously. Wait, hold on. How come that woman was talking? Why wasn't the man talking at that point, if that's what they believe in? But okay, let's get back to that. Now, the group co-founder, Dorothy's husband, had exerted almost total control over the former member when she was living in the couple's household, including making all the decisions about her finances as well as dating relationships. Now, how that relates to Amy Coney Barrett, she had also lived with the Ranigans when she attended law school at Notre Dame. Although she had never publicly disclosed or discussed her membership in the People of Praise, where her father served as in a leadership role, and she had served as, get this, I'm not making this title up, handmaid. She served as a handmaid. Dystopian. Total dystopian shit. Wow. And now, she had served as a handmaid, and when she was trying to get on the Supreme Court, she said that her faith would have no bearing on her duties as a judge. Really? Again, this is a woman that voted down reproductive rights for women, and I'm going to get to how that ties into this in a bit, and who had written about how we need an increase in the domestic supply of infants. Just too low. But no, it's not even about that. Again, it's about men controlling women's lives and bodies. In fact, let's go to the discussion on Roe v. Wade. Now, the Guardian article noted, while Barrett's personal faith-based opposition to abortion rights in Roe were known before her 2020 confirmation and before she joined a majority of justices in overturning that landmark ruling, less is known about the culture in which Barrett was raised and its views on women in childbirth, suffering, and their role in society. Barrett has also never addressed how the reversal of Roe might affect a woman's life. But during her oral argument in Dobbs v. Jackson, the Supreme Court case that ultimately overturned Roe, Barrett referred specifically in questions of the availability of the so-called safe haven law across the U.S., which allows mothers to abandon newborns in designated locations without the risk of punishment. She suggested that the availability of these legal protections for new mothers meant that while women might be forced to give birth, or will be forced to give birth if Roe were overturned, they would not necessarily be forced to become parents or be burdened by parenthood. The line of reasoning was decried as cruel and dangerous by pro-choice activists and writers who said that seeing safe haven laws is a viable replacement for reproductive choice ignored real health risks associated with pregnancy and childbirth and ignored women's right to bodily autonomy. Barrett's question also appears to echo people of praise culture in which she was raised and chosen to remain part of, which emphasizes, and this is how it ties in, the importance of childbirth, pregnancy, and abandonment of autonomy and privacy it supposedly entails as a core part of what it means to be a woman. So now that right there, that's her personal beliefs. And yes, that absolutely does tie in to the decision that she made. So even if you're not forced to become a parent, with the so-called, safe haven laws, you still, according to her belief, getting pregnant, having your body change, and giving birth, that's a core part of being a woman to her. And by the way, losing your bodily autonomy as removing the Roe decision and the states then enacting their trigger laws and their abortion bans ultimately did. Now, let me give you the quote here from Dorothy Ronigan on this as well. And this is the teachings that Amy Coney Barrett believes in. Quote, pregnancy teaches a woman that others have a claim on her very person for the service of life. Rather than annihilating her, pregnancy makes her a new person, radiant and strong, a mother. Well, hold on. Oh, it doesn't annihilate her, but it makes her a new person. Isn't that kind of the same thing? Again, amazing, right? So that's what they believe in. That's who these people are. And again, this is what Amy Coney Barrett. You can't say that she doesn't make her Supreme Court decisions not based off this, right? Of course she makes these decisions based on this or whatever her husband says. Because again, it's not just about like, I'm part of this group and all that. No, it's a religious sect. It is a cult. And you follow what the cult leader says. And you follow, and in this case, the cult leader says, follow what your husband says. Only submit to your husband, 100%. And so that's why a lot of people, when they were opposing Amy Coney Barrett, said, well, look, the reason is that we don't know if it's actually her decisions or the law, right, which is what they're supposed to interpret, or if it's just the words of her husband coming through her mouth. And it looks like, based on her decisions, I don't know, maybe she agrees with it. Maybe she feels like she has to agree with it. But it certainly, I don't think it's her words. It sounds a lot like, Dorothy or more likely Kevin's words than anyone else's. All right. Now that said, That's the place of the woman. They also, by the way, have a, place about the men. So what about the men? So it turns out that men in People of Praise were also quietly taught by their heads and leaders not to take part in any part of the child rearing. For example, they were instructed not to change or rinse out diapers. So leave all that stuff. That's women's job. That's her job. I'm not supposed to do any of that. I'm not supposed to do any of that woman housework stuff. Now, you can see why men would really want to be attracted to this. Especially guys who are lazy. And by the way, they also instructed men to distrust women's emotions. They're to be distrusted. And that pastoral problems were often addressed by asking a woman where she was in her menstrual cycle. Ah, you must be on that time again. That's why you're acting like that. Of course. Oh, of course. Total, absolute misogyny. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting, but it's what these people believe. We're not supposed to be a theocracy, but it looks like the Supreme Court is headed by one, controlled by a theocracy. Disgusting. That's what it is. Now, what's funny is the reaction. Okay, let me get to that. In a statement released after the publication of the Guardian article, Dorothy Rennigan replied that my remarks were meant as a joke. Now, I mean, that's why people were laughing, right? At the pain of women who were crying about losing their autonomy. And that the people in the room had understood. I would never be part of a group that oppresses women, and I never have been part of one. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Yeah, really. Bullshit. Yeah, okay.
Really?
Yeah. She also says, I have been proud to be one of the women leaders in the People of Praise for more than 50 years. I've been in the company of many strong women, lawyers, doctors, educated businesswomen, wives and mothers, and we are in no way oppressed. Yeah, it sounds like what oppressed people would say. I'm not oppressed. We're not oppressed. My husband tells me I'm not oppressed, and I believe him. Sure, yes, that's not what cult leaders or cultists say at all. We are responsible for our own decisions. We are free and happy. Furthermore, it is unconscionable to me that any of the more than 40 men and women who have lived with our family over the years would consider my husband an oppressor. As those who know him would agree, he is kind, gentle man who listens carefully and respects the opinion of women and men, as he always has. Yeah, I got news for you. You can seem like a nice person and still manipulate and control people. Again, if you're somebody who takes in younger people, okay, who takes in people who might not have the financial means to take care of themselves, and they're in your home, that gives you a certain level of control over them. Now, add in religion to that. That's definitely a recipe for being able to, dare I say, groom a person into a particular set of beliefs. And in this case, extreme fundamentalist Christian beliefs. And so, is that what I think happened with Amy Coney Barrett? Yeah, it is. I am saying that I think that that's what happened. Because again, I don't think that she is, I don't think that she's qualified, for one, to be on the Supreme Court and to make decisions for the millions of women, because I don't think she's making those decisions based on what the law says and on precedent, but instead making decisions based on what her religion and what her cult says. That's why she's unqualified. Not to mention, too, that she had also lied to the Supreme Court, or I'm sorry, lied to get on the Supreme Court when she said that she was going to leave Roe intact. That's who she is. That's what they believe. And that's why it's dangerous for democracy. Okay. All right. Well, so here's what's going on. So next week, no live shows next week. I'm going to be off on vacation, but wait, don't despair. Don't despair. I will be putting up some content throughout the week. So I'm going to do some, preparation, right? I'm going to do some segments and I'll have them out during the week. So don't worry, you'll get your fill of me still. I'll have some content up for you on the Facebook and YouTube pages. So that said, the staycation begins when I'm done with all that stuff, and I will be back next Monday. That will be, of course, let me check the calendar here. That will be Monday. Hold on. Monday the 5th. I'll be back on Monday, the 5th of September. So everybody enjoy this week. I certainly will try to do so. And to everyone, thank you all. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. Have a great time. We'll see you on the 5th of September. Have a great night and a great time. Oh, by the way, we're going to raid on Twitch. And I forgot to read out Super Chats, so hold on. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Definitely get ahead of myself. Let's go back. Do a Surf's raid first. And then read some Super Chats, and then I'll head out. Yeah, I almost forgot. It's one of those things where you're so excited to start your vacation that you want to rush out the door, and then you forget to do stuff. Oops. Sad. Happens. So let me pull up those Super Chats here. Oh, is the 5th Labor Day? I'm terrible with dates. Then I guess we'll be back on Tuesday. The 6th. So. All right. And Gabby Mathis, thank you for the very kind $5. Have a great vacation. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Dr. Sippy McScoot says Republicans were okay with the nearly $5 trillion bailout last year to the rich with no requirement to repay. We weren't even allowed to know who got the money. You're absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And Maridano says, to be clear, I will not allow misogyny to survive. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Twitch. What's going on here on Twitch? Hi, Anxiety Dragon Girl. Thank you for subbing for a month to Tier 1. And Cerberus Alpha Gaming, thank you for gifting me Tier 1 sub to I'm a Silly Girl. Thank you. Love you. We'll see you back here on the 6th.
Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
Beta. Disappointed. Sexual anarchy. Get in a long queue with a bunch of thieves.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.
Bitch, move it along.